Welcome to my allotment. Today I'm going to be talking about what you can be doing in March and the jobs you can be doing on your allotment. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. Now, your rhubarb, you could be forcing it on if you wanted to. So mine's looking really good. I did borrow a cover off of a friend of mine, a terracotta pot, but with the high winds we were concerned it was going to get damaged, so we took it off temporarily. And anyway, mine seems to be doing really well, and if I'm honest, I don't really think it needs forcing. The stems are looking really good already. If you live in an area where it's not as mild as it is here, then forcing your rhubarb with a rhubarb forcer would really be useful, and we can put a link in this, so if you want to watch how and learn how to force rhubarb, then you can do that. But mine, honestly, if the weather continues like this, it won't be long and I can start picking that, so that's really awesome. So as we come down, one of the jobs you need to do, if you haven't done it already, you need to have pruned all your fruit trees and fruit bushes. So as you can see, we've done ours now. Ours are all done, so that's a job that, yeah, like I say, if you've not done it already, you really need to be doing that. That's a job that needs to be done. As we move down, keeping weeds under control is really important this time of year. Even though it seems quite cold, the weeds are already taking hold. In particular, if you're like me and you've got like grass verges, make sure you dig the grass verges out so that they're not growing in, because if you wait until a few more months, they would have rooted in more and they'll be really hard work to get out. And also hoeing round. So I've hoed round my garlic today because already there were little tufts of grass, little tiny weeds, and if I leave them in there, they'll take hold and they'll be much harder to get out. And obviously they'll be struggling, my garlics will be struggling for all the water and the nutrition because the weeds will be taking it. So obviously harvesting anything that you've got, because you're going to be harvesting most of your crops this month, which I've been doing. So as you can see here, I haven't hoed this bit, and you can see there's little tufts of grass there. You know, a few weeks ago I don't think there were any tufts of grass. In the space of a few weeks you've got lots of little weeds that are starting to grow, you know, and they look very insignificant at the moment. But if you leave them, they will get worse and it will be much harder work. So an example of the grass growing in is here. So this bit I haven't dug out. So you can see the grass has grown in, you know, and it is quite hard work to dig out. So you only want to dig it out a bit at a time. But if you don't do it like this month, once it starts to get warmer and it, you know, the stuff will root in more and it'll be much tougher to get out of the ground because the ground might be much drier as well. So even though it's hard work now, it will be harder work if you leave it until later in the year. So if you're going to do anything this month, get those verges out if you've got grass paths like I have. So slug damage is a real issue this time of year, as are aphids, but you know, bear with them. You know, the birds will eat the slugs and the snails this time of year, and any bugs that you've got, you know, you've got your beneficial insects like your hoverflies and your ladybirds and things like that that benefit out of those. And as you haven't got anything that you really have to worry about being infested at the moment, it's good to feed the beneficial insects while you can. So I wouldn't concern yourself if you've got any aphids or anything like that at the moment. It's part of, you know, part of this time of the year, and actually benefits the beneficial insects and feeds them. And you want all those beneficial insects looking after your garden for you, so you don't have to use nasty chemicals. Now as we move down, I've harvested my leeks, so I'm going to be covering the rest of this ground up with my ground cover, which I've got folded over here, but I'll be folding it over and I will be covering that. Now it's really important, I think, to do this because again, if you leave stuff and start digging later in the year, it gets much harder work. And if I dug this and I didn't cover it, the weeds will take hold so incredibly quickly. And I have the same piece of cover that I cover all the allotment, you know, lots of different bits. I cover it and I lift it back up in the spring, and since I've been doing that, it's made my life so much easier. So if you've not got weed membrane, it's worth investing in good quality weed membrane that you can use year after year. I will put a link in the description if you want to buy some of that, because that would be one of my top tips for making life such a lot easier. Pretty much changed my life when I started using weed cover, and meant that I got everything done a lot quicker because I put the weed cover down. I could then just lift it up when I needed to plant it. So as we move round, again, I've got more digging to do and more covering to do. I will be putting some nitrogen-based manure around my Savoy cabbages that are under here. Let's take a look, see what they look like at the moment, to give them a good feed. And hopefully it won't be too long and I'll be harvesting those. I haven't actually lifted this up, so I don't know what it's like. Oh wow, they are actually starting to fill out. That's pretty awesome, hey? Look at that. So while it's not big enough to harvest, it looks like I need to do a bit of weeding in here as well. Look, got a sneaky weed in there. It's managed to get in. So yeah, and also go around it and pull up any weeds that you've got. I think I habitually look at the other end to see how they're doing, and these weeds have snuck up on me. Again, you can see a little bit of slug damage, but it's not affecting the main heart of it. So actually they can eat those leaves, I'm not that bothered, as long as they're not attacking this part of the plant, I'm not that bothered. And you know, there's various things you can do to keep the slugs down. There's nematodes, which is quite an expensive option, but it is one that's quite a long-term option. Chili pepper and Damascus earth I use, which I find really helpful. You know, chili pepper and Damascus earth is natural, there's no chemicals in it, and it's really, really effective. It's something that I've used for quite a few years now, and it's something that I really swear by. I will put a link in the description for some of the things I'm using, and if you want to purchase it yourself, then you can do. But yeah, if I'm going to come out of anything, it's the Damascus earth. I use it on my chickens as well. It's really good for them, for keeping the red spider mite at bay. Again, so I don't have to use nasty chemicals on those either. So let me just cover this because I don't want the birds getting into it. I should correct myself, it's diatomaceous earth that we use, which is really effective. I didn't pronounce it very well then, but I know what I mean, but no one else would do. So I'm not perfect, I know what I need to get, but I don't always get the right words in the right way. So again, we will put the link in the description if you're interested in getting any of that. So as we move up, I've got more ground that I've dug over, ready for planting in the new season. I will get that covered at some point, but I can't do everything all in one day. One thing I would say if doing your jobs up the allotment, you can't get everything done in one day. It's absolutely exhausting and takes the fun out of it. I always come up here little and often. Often I come up for an hour, do an hour's work, and then I go back. You know, some people do spend hours and hours on the allotment. My top tip is do little and often, and it's far more enjoyable when you do it that way, and it doesn't feel quite such hard work. So something else you could be doing at this time of year, if you want to plant some fruit trees, you can do bare rootstock, and if you wanted to be forcing on your strawberries, you could be covering them to keep them warm, to try and push them on a little bit sooner. Something else you can be sowing in March are your onion sets, and I will be sowing some of my onion sets towards the end of March and the beginning of April. So that's something, if you've not sourced your onions yet, it's really worth doing them. And like I say, I'll be planting mine towards the end of the month to the beginning of April. So also potatoes, if you're not already chitting your potatoes, that's a job you can be doing. I'm chitting my potatoes at the moment, and I will be putting my first earlies in the ground at the end of March. A little bit too early now to be putting those things out, could still be quite cold, but I will be putting them out at the end of March. And also starting off any seeds you want to start off yourself at home. So I've got various seeds already started, and I start off a few seeds. As soon as some start to germinate, I take them out of the propagator, they go on the windowsill in my spare room, and then I start some more off. So that's something you could be doing. If you're not sure what you can be sowing in seeds this time of the year, we will put a link so you can look at what you can be sowing now if you're not sure. And I'd love to know what jobs you're doing at the moment up your allotment and what seeds you're sowing as well. So I do really hope that my video has given you some inspiration to get gardening and get growing this year. It's going to be quite an exciting year for me, all the different things I'm going to be growing, and I do hope it's going to be an exciting year for you too.